Water is the second most vital element needed for life. In fact, where there's no water, you don't usually get people living, do you?
Dr. Barbara O'Neill, a renowned expert in holistic health, presents an eye-opening discussion on the crucial role water plays in maintaining life and well-being, explaining how water, sodium, and potassium interact within the body to support essential functions. Dr. O'Neill highlights common misconceptions about drinking water, the dangers of processed table salt. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on future videos.
If I drink water, my feet swell. If I drink water, I'm going to the bathroom all day. Those last two answers tell me that the water's not getting inside the cell. So how do we get the water inside the cell? We have to go to the third most vital element needed for life, and that is sodium. The fourth most vital element needed for life is potassium. We find the highest amount of sodium in seawater, and seawater contains 92 minerals. Of those 92 minerals, approximately 30% is sodium, and of those 92 minerals, approximately 50% is chloride. Now, because sodium chloride take up the most amount, they're the first crystals formed when the water is evaporated. So what man does is he scoops up the first crystals formed, he bleaches them white, puts aluminium with it so that it runs freely, and there's your table salt. Table salt is a dangerous salt because we now have two very harsh minerals that if you were to inject both of those into the blood, you would die. There's two harsh minerals and they need all the other 90 to soften them and balance them.
Water is the second most crucial element for life after oxygen. She emphasizes its importance, pointing out how long the human body can survive without water and the detrimental effects of dehydration. Many people drink water but fail to absorb it properly. Barbara discusses how water needs to get inside the cells and that sodium, the third most vital element for life, helps in this process.
The highest concentration of mineral inside the cell is potassium. The highest concentration outside the cell is sodium. And in this bilayered membrane that is around every cell, there are sodium-potassium pumps. And these sodium-potassium pumps are ever going like this, maintaining the balance between potassium and sodium. But when someone's not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and that's where you get most of your potassium, and they're putting table salt on everything far too much, what happens now is sodium levels rise and potassium levels drop. There is a small amount of sodium in the cell, but when this happens, you see osmosis and diffusion happens when the highest concentration merges into the lowest. So now sodium levels inside the cell are rising, which they should not, and the cell swells. What's that called? High blood pressure.
Barbara explains that sodium, found naturally in sea salt, helps balance potassium and sodium levels in the body. She mentions how sodium is needed to get water into the cells and prevent issues like high blood pressure. She critiques table salt, which is processed and lacks essential minerals. Barbara recommends Celtic salt for its high mineral content, especially magnesium, which aids in cellular hydration.
But I prefer the Celtic salt, and one reason is that the Celtic salt has 3 magnesiums. It contains magnesium chloride and magnesium bromide and magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, and this explains why the Celtic salt is such a moist salt, especially when we've had a lot of rain, because those 3 magnesiums absorb the moisture. And because magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, it can be used to help the water get into the cell. So when you take a crystal of Celtic salt, put it on your tongue, and some say, how big's a crystal? Well, if you've got high blood pressure, start small, about the size of a sesame seed. I don't have high blood pressure, so I might have about 3 times little sesame seeds. Put it on your tongue, your mucous membranes start absorbing the minerals, the magnesium is taken to the cell membrane, and you drink your water, and that magnesium pulls that water inside the cell. It's the quickest way to hydrate a body. The only time excess water drinking can be dangerous is if people drink too much at once and don't have the minerals that are in the Celtic salt to pull that water inside the cell.
She ties high blood pressure to poor dietary choices, such as insufficient fruits, vegetables, potassium sources, and overconsumption of processed salt. This leads to an imbalance in sodium and potassium levels, contributing to swelling and high blood pressure. Importance of proper hydration. Drinking too much water without balancing it with minerals like those in Celtic salt can lead to frequent urination. Proper hydration involves consuming water gradually and pairing it with minerals for optimal absorption.
I've had people complain to me, they say, I'm drinking more water now and now I'm going to the bathroom all day. So I say, are you having the salt? Have a little crystal before every glass of water. And ideally we should be having approximately 8 glasses of water a day. And then I say to them, and don't drink a whole glass at once. I think I mentioned earlier, I drink half a glass as soon as I get up. I go to the bathroom, I drink another half glass. Then I get dressed and have another half glass. But when I start every glass, I have that little bit of salt. So you spread the water over the day. And many people have said to me, thank you so much, that has made a big difference. See, huge water in, it's not long before huge water has to come out. It's like watering a plant. And look how God sends the rain, little by little by little. And when there's a tornado, when there's a torrential downpour, that's when the soil gets washed away and flooding can happen. Have you seen people that eat table salt? They put it on everything and they put it on before they've even tasted it. Well, no wonder, their taste buds are dying. Whereas Celtic salt, with all of its minerals, it enhances the flavour of the food. Now, the red lentils we had this morning, a few people have said, what's in this? I've even served it at my house at breakfast and people have said, is there chicken in this? And I know why they say that, it's because it's so flavoursome.
Barbara covers the broader health consequences of dehydration, including its impact on digestion, brain function, and joint movement.
He found the first place that we lose water is the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. He also found that if you go down the gastrointestinal tract, you come to the pancreas. But if you're dehydrated, those hormones aren't being made as they should be. So people that are dehydrated, that can be a contributing factor to diabetes. So there's pancreatic lipase to finalize starch digestion. Fat digestion. There's pancreatic amylase, that's what finalises starch digestion. There's trypsin and chymotrypsin that finalise protein digestion. Now, they're all made out of water. If you don't have enough water, your digestion will be compromised. In a state of dehydration, the body can take some water from there to maintain full blood volume in the major arteries and veins. And so if I have pain in there, maybe it's called arthritis, but actually maybe it's just a state of dehydration. Our eyeball moves around in water, so we need water at every single step. Also our lungs. Now at the bottom of our lungs, I'll draw you a small picture of our lungs so that you'll understand this. So here's our lungs here, that's one lung. So your trachea splits and comes down, and then it splits again into little bronchioles. It's quite a process. And then at the end of every bronchiole, looks like a little bunch of grapes, but they're alveoli. So at the end of the bronchioles, you've got the alveoli, and this is where the gaseous exchange takes place. Over every alveoli, there's a little blood capillary network, and it is in that blood capillary network where the oxygen is picked up from the alveoli and the blood drops the carbon dioxide and we breathe out. In every alveoli there's a minuscule droplet of water, and because of the surface tension of water, when you breathe out, that little alveoli collapses, which allows all the carbon dioxide, the majority of it, to be breathed out. So that now when you breathe in, you can breathe in more oxygen. In a state of dehydration, that little droplet of water is not as it should be, which means that doesn't totally collapse when you breathe out, which means you can't get your full quota of oxygen.
She emphasizes that water is essential for every body function, from saliva production to lung function, and warns against the negative effects of chronic dehydration. If you found this video informative, make sure to give a like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so that you won't miss out on any future videos.